Welcome, I'm Daniel Garcia, and this will be a brief training on visualizing hypothesis testing. So first, our agenda. We will discuss the null hypothesis versus the alternate hypothesis. Visualization number 1, we'll talk about a test for a mean. Visualization number 2, comparing two groups. Visualization number 3, efficiency comparison. On visualization number 4, we will discuss correlation test. And then we'll have a slide with important takeaways, creating hypothesis tests, and using visualizations. And then we will wrap up with any questions. So the null hypothesis versus the alternate or alternative hypothesis. The null hypothesis states that our theory is false. In order to prove our theory, we must be able to reject the null hypothesis and accept the alternate hypothesis in support of our theory. The null hypothesis is rejected when the results of our hypothesis testing meets the significance test. The alternate hypothesis states that our theory is true. The alternate hypothesis theorizes a relationship between two or more variables. In order to accept the alternate hypothesis in support of our theory, the results of the test must reject the null hypothesis, thereby proving our hypothesis. Visualization number 1, test for a mean. So we have a research question here, and you can see on the graph. Our question is, on average, are the widgets from Acme Widget Company defect-free? So the null hypothesis for this example would be the average number of defect-free widgets equals 0. For the alternative hypothesis, we would state that the average number of defect-free widgets does not equal 0. Visualization number 2, comparing two groups. So here we have an example of some home run hitters in the major and minor league teams. The red curve represents the minor league teams. The blue curve represents the major league teams. The research question is, does the average major league team have more home run hitters than its corresponding minor league team? So the null hypothesis would state that the number of home run hitters in a major league team is equal to the number of home run hitters in its corresponding minor league team. The alternative hypothesis would state that the number of home run hitters in a major league team is not equal to the number of home run hitters in its corresponding minor league team. And you can see there on the graph, it appears that the blue line representing the major league teams is a little higher. Visualization number 3, efficiency comparison. Research question. The efficiency curves of the red and blue teams were recorded. Do the teams have equal mean efficiencies? So the null hypothesis states that the red and blue teams have equal means. The alternative hypothesis states that the red and blue teams do not have equal means. Visualization number 4, correlational test. A German study tested how larger industrial use vans utilized gasoline. One of their analysis plotted miles per gallon, or MPG, versus the weight of the various vans in the study. After plotting the data on a scatter plot, the researchers performed a correlational test and found a significant correlation. However, they forgot to state their hypothesis test in their published paper. So the question is, what were the study's null and alternative hypotheses? Well, the null hypotheses would state that there is no relationship between the weight of a van and miles per gallon. And the alternative hypotheses would state that there is a relationship between the weight of a van and miles per gallon. Okay, so important takeaways from this lesson. Creating hypothesis tests. Hypothesis testing examines two opposite hypotheses, the null hypotheses and the alternate hypothesis. The hypothesis test analyzes the collected data and either accepts or rejects the null hypothesis. About using visualizations. Visualizations aid in the identification of whether to accept or reject the null hypothesis. Visualizations make it easier to identify the data trends amongst the variables. This is especially true when it's a large data set. Thank you for watching. Any questions?